nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars. Don't let them end.
Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of our planet's hottest entertainment with an edge from a galaxy far, far away. I'm Jaime En Fuego.
Robert Duell.
I'm Cecil Laird.
And we are stoked to be having the first spoilers discussion about Season 1 of Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Disney+. It became a huge phenomenon, and now it's kind of lost some steam because the season's over and everyone's binging The Witcher. But nonetheless, Baby Yoda became a meme across the entire planet, and it was crazy. It was a hell of a lot of fun, though. It was my favorite Star Wars thing that I saw this year, way more so than that recent film, and maybe one of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen them put together. It's gritty. It had that Rogue One type of vibe, which I am really appreciative that they returned to. I reviewed all of these episodes in a very rapid fashion, one after another, and I didn't spoil in the midst of those, so that's the sort of discussion that we are about to have. And since I've heard your thoughts on this a lot, and since Robert has not been on my personal channel here in Enfuegotainment before, I'm going to just throw it over to you, man, and just give some overall, impressions and what you thought was, solid about this. So we're going to start BUENO, MALO, FEO. What was good, man?
Everything, honestly. I liked everything about this show. It's exactly what I was hoping that they were going to go for. Like you were pointing out with the whole grittiness of Rogue One. Mm-hmm. That's what I was hoping for, and that's what I got. There was nothing that fell short really about this show. I'd say the graphics were great, the set designs, the everything. That's really all what I got to say about that for now.
Okay, BUENO. So BUENO for you, man. Good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's in abundance here, as I often say.
Yeah, I have a feeling the BUENO section is going to be bigger than the rest. I will flat out say that this is the best. For me, this is the most enjoyable Star Wars property out there. I like it better than any of the movies, including the original trilogy. Call me a blasphemer if you want, but I never had the attachment to those that everyone else has had. I enjoyed them well enough. They were fun, but they were fun to me on the same level that Indiana Jones is fun. They weren't, my religion. Horror was my religion. Jaws was my religion. Freddy was my religion. Chucky was my religion. So I just didn't have that. If I had had this, then Star Wars might have been my religion. I mean, this is the way when it comes to Star Wars, in my opinion. I loved it for many. Not a kid. Way to piggyback with the other one-liner. Yeah. No, I loved the characters. I love the lone wolf and cub nature of the storytelling. Mm-hmm. Man and baby, and I am surprised. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that they were so confident that the story of him watching over Baby Yoda, and yes, we understand that's not technically his name. He doesn't have a name, and we don't know his race's name. So this is the closest we have. So we will be referring to him as Baby Yoda. Yeah. But he is the child, and so they knew ahead of time how important the child was going to be, because season 2 is all about, it just continues with him watching over the child and trying to discover the child's origins and where does the child belong. And thank God that they decided to go that way, because the child is easily the most interesting part of the show. So if I had to narrow down my first BUENO to one, it's the child. Yeah. The child drew everyone back to, it feels like the movies divided the Star Wars fan base. The child has reunited.
The most recent trilogy definitely has divided a lot of people, myself included. I enjoyed 9 and 8 to a lesser degree a little bit, but I had major problems with them. And I'm up for these sort of side missions and different stories within the Star Wars universe. I feel like now that the saga is over, we can continue telling these stories because it's such a rich universe. It's so well developed, and I mean, I have to say Pedro Pascal, who plays our guy, and we only see his face at one time in the entirety of the season, and I thought it was brilliant the way they did it, where he's like, well, I'm not actually alive, so it doesn't count. Yeah. He's like, okay, sure, I can
Taika Waititi telling him.
Yeah, exactly. He was great, as IG-11. A lot of people were like, oh, it's going to be Boba Fett, it's going to be IG-88. No, not quite, but it still doesn't mean we couldn't see some of these other bounty hunters pop up at particular times, but I thought the ensemble was great. I found myself enjoying these other characters that we only got to see an episode or two so much more than I anticipated. The Drop Trooper, played by the MMA girl, she was in,
Gina Carano?
Gina Carano. I'd seen her in Deadpool before, and I'd seen her in like one of the Furious movies and stuff. She's also in that Madness in the Method, that J movie. Not too good in that, but this is the best acting I had ever seen her do, especially in those last 2 episodes. She got to flex some legitimate dramatic muscle.
People are shipping her for She-Hulk now.
I'm down for that.
Actually would be really
She's
cool.
built like a tank, dude.
Yeah,
She could do
I
that.
think she'd be a really good choice for that.
I'm up for that. And Taika's not in a ton of episodes, but he's great. Carl Weathers as this kind of pseudo employer of Mando's is terrific. I mean, with the exception of Bill Burr, just feeling out of place to me in this. Aside from him, I thought the extended Nick Nolte as the,
He didn't feel that out of place for me because I'm not as huge on the Bill Burr train as everyone else is. So to me, he's still like not quite well known enough to me that he was just like, oh, he's just a wisecracking bounty hunter out there. And I feel like there would be the Deadpool of bounty hunters out there, and he's kind of attempting to fill that void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get why everyone else would have that problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you for that, but I don't have that trouble that everyone or some people seem to have.
Yeah, it was a great ensemble, and honestly, I was happy that by those last couple episodes, we got the gang all back together. I was just like, oh, is it really going to be an episode or two with this person, and then they're gone for good? No, they did. It all came full circle, and that pin that you got me, they did actually end up having their little ragtag gang by the end of this season, which was super dope. So yeah, that's definitely something that I greatly enjoyed and is my first point. And something else good you can think of?
They definitely did a good job on introducing the characters slowly and everything without throwing everyone too quickly into the fold at once. But yeah, like you were saying, that once they slowly started bringing everyone back into everything, it worked out really well. See, really, I don't even really have anything really bad or anything to say about this.
Yeah,
did we segue into the fail already? There's tons more Bueno we can talk about.
Yeah.
If you have another Bueno specific.
Yeah, man, something else good to mention. I mean,
there's tons of good to mention.
I know, I'm trying to...
Yeah, Fuego's got very sectioned off reviews here.
Yeah, I know. I've watched them and everything.
They're very front loaded with the good in situations like this.
Honestly, I would say that one of the best things about this series is just the overall design of the armor, the creatures, the little details and everything, even with the cantinas, things like that. I thought were great. They were spot on with the detail. The first episode reels you in and shows you exactly what you're going to be getting for the rest of this season. Especially with that initial cantina shootout.
Oh yeah,
you're like, oh, this is the way they're going. Perfect.
Yeah, super Western, man.
Yeah, like super 100%. Western. Yeah, and I can't remember his blaster is designed, I believe, off of it's an 1870s military revolver. I believe. Crazy. Don't quote me on that. But yeah.
Nice. Something else going on from you, man. Something else good.
I liked I guess if I had to broaden this to something that can kind of encompass a bigger point, I liked both the pacing and the structure of the show, because while I think that the show could easily sustain a longer than 8 episode season, the pacing of it, where he's going to a new objective each episode and it's got its own functional story per episode that never felt like it was necessarily superfluous, unnecessary, or anything like that. Like, I liked that every episode had its place, because you either met someone that made a difference in the end, or something transpired that made a difference in the end. So because of the shorter season, I think they're able to tell a more engaging story where everything matters and there's less fluff episodes. So I definitely think that was a positive for this series as well.
Nice. Another bueno for me is I have been very fascinated about just this time period, the post-Jedi time period in the Star Wars timeline, because of the fact that, the original trilogy is my favorite, and I am as you said, one of those people who just is beloved with it, and but played so many of the video games in the 90s on PC, to read the expanded universe novels and stuff like that, read Shadows of the Empire, read stuff like Heir to the Empire and that sequel stuff that Timothy Zahn, I believe is the name of the author. And so this is a period that I'm happy they're finally exploring on screen, because we're talking between Rise of Skywalker and Return of the Jedi, it's like 30 years practically, so there is a lot of interesting stuff to develop as far as like the galaxy being in a little bit of disarray. And Werner Herzog's character actually brings up a very interesting point in the episode where he gets killed when Breaking Bad dude shows up, and he's like, the Imperial Empire was actually a good thing because it maintained order, and it made sure all of the plants are getting their proper like supply routes and all this different stuff. He's like, now, even though the rebels are trying to take control now, the galaxy is kind of in a state of disarray. I thought that was a fascinating point for him to make, and it's the weird argument of big government and the positives and negatives of it. Obviously, the overbearing aspect, but people are often cared for. I mean, we're not trying to get into politics here or anything, but I thought that was just a fascinating, suggestion to make, and just seeing the state of these post-imperials and how they've kind of become these like warlords at this particular point and stuff, and there's still stormtroopers around, but there's been, when they go on Tatooine and you see how barren Mos Eisley is now, and you're just like, man, stuff has definitely changed in the post-Empire world. So I thought supplies. That was I thought that was cool, just to show how the galaxy has changed, I guess. So anything else good that you guys can think of?
I can rapid fire some.
Please.
I think Queel, played by Nick Nolte, was an amazing addition as a character. I think Giancarlo Esposito showing up as Moff Gideon. I think the Darksaber showing up. I don't even know the context
I'm
for
curious
it,
on how the hell he even got the
really
Darksaber.
cool. I don't even know what the Darksaber is, but it looks awesome, and I know it's
from Clone Wars
in Rebels and stuff, right? Yeah. So I don't know what that is, but I'm excited about it. Obviously, the Baby Yoda of it all, but I just, there's so much I'm interested in that I can't say that about every TV show that I watch by any stretch. So that's exciting for me. So that's a bunch of buenos right there.
And there's a lot they can still do with this too, which is nice, because like it is 5 years after Jedi where this timeline takes place. So, and like you were saying, we don't know what happened in between that 30 years or whatever in between. So this is a great story segment, and they can even expand on from this into those a couple dull decades here and there.
Yeah, there was a lot of like comics and like novels and stuff that they did, but then when Disney bought it, all that stuff has been stricken from record, and they're just kind of cherry picking whatever little story aspects they want to try to fold in, and they're writing all these new novels that are, but they still haven't explored it that much on screen, especially.
I heard rumors that some people are saying that Darth Maul is supposed to come into this in season 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors
to be backed up by the fact that Ray Park posted a Twitter image of him in the makeup just a couple of weeks ago.
Cool.
So if they were filming season 2, they'd be filming it right about now.
Yeah, well, they said it's coming out this fall. And they didn't give an exact like release date or anything like that. But he's like, yeah, we're in pre-production. This is.
How could they not be? I mean, it's why so many people signed up for Disney Plus.
And then yet I also read that a lot of people were like canceling it after the last episode.
Yet another reason to fast track it for the fall.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. If he's already in the Maul makeup again, and that's the kid. I mean, technically, the last we saw of him was in Solo. So this would be yet another time jump for him, where he's even older. But he's a Darth. He's a Sith, and obviously aging isn't a problem for them, according to the new movie lore.
I'm just curious, and if they're gonna do like with bringing Maul back, is it gonna be the design what they did in like Clone Wars?
Well, in Solo he has the robot legs.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple different versions of what they did with him in the Clone Wars. Like he had like spider legs kind of thing, and then he actually had the two bipedal.
I'm sure it's bipedal legs that could, in some action sequence, separate into three.
See, that would actually be pretty cool.
You know what I mean?
I would like that.
I'm sure they could do that. You know, it's future.
Well, I mean, he was on a bunch of episodes of Rebels as well, and Rebels took place about the same time as the Solo film. So, I mean, they've covered him a lot in, just after getting killed supposedly, and then being, reincorporated back in. So, I think that sort of, have that be some new warring big bad or whatever. I mean, he basically ends up going against Palpatine and the Sith and just becoming this, like, this, I don't know, like, drug warlord, like, you know, underground sort of dude instead. So he's like a third party doing his own damn thing, which is kind of fascinating. So
well, that's what the Mandalorian is. He's off doing his own damn thing. It makes sense to have them cross.
Or Galaxy's greatest dad.
I do have a MALO, if you want to segue.
I was just about to, but I did want to mention the fact that the score really grew on me. Initially, I wasn't. I mean, I liked it initially, but
I love it.
As I watched more and more episodes of the show, like bum 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 bum, it was terrific. And I also loved all those paintings that they did at the end of every single episode.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
I was swiping one of those for each of my thumbnails. I was like, okay, which one is dope enough, but isn't going to spoil too much since they were these little rapid non-spoiler. I talked for maybe like 8 to 10 minutes each time. I tried to keep it very brief, and so yeah, the score was great. I
listened to the score when I was creating my first Dungeons and Dragons character the past couple of weeks. I would just listen as I was doing research. I would just listen to Mandalorian over and over again. I love that score so much. It's so good.
Nice. Well, I guess, you know, since we're not trying to make this into an hour-long episode, we have like a ton of different stuff we still have to film here at the Horror Show Studios. But if we segue from the bueno into the malo into the bad stuff, really one of the few gripes that I have is that I do feel like in the middle of the season, like after episode 3, which Deborah Chow directed the hell out of, episode 3 and episode 7 were her two that she did, and they were two of the absolute best. The action was great. I mean, getting to see all of those bounty hunters fighting against those all the Mandalorians when they came up and out, that was just so awesome. But after that episode, I felt like the show dragged just a little bit. My least favorite episode of the season was episode 4, the one that was basically Seventh Samurai, essentially. It was exactly that. It was too similar for me.
Oh, with the walker in the woods?
With the walker in the woods and everything, and protecting the village, and, you know, so on and so forth. I didn't hate the episode. I didn't hate any of these episodes, but it was definitely the one that I was probably the least hot on at the end of the day, just because it was too familiarized with the story beats. And then the next 2 episodes, really, the 5th one being on Tatooine, and then the 6th one being the whole escape, caper, rescue of his ex-girlfriend's brother and all that stuff. Yeah, and with Bill Burr being involved. Like, those 3 episodes were my least favorite of the season, you know, and I felt like the show was at its strongest when it was continuing the course with our main story, you know, with what's the Imperial involvement, why did they want this kid, and, you know, is he a clone, you know, all these different theories that have been floated around. And so that's really the only bad that I have, is that I felt like the show lost steam just a little bit in its midsection, but it finished very, very strongly with 7 and 8, and I can't wait to see what Deborah Chow does with the Obi-Wan show, because she's actually directing that. Yeah, all the episodes from what I understand.
I predict he'll say hello there.
That's a possibility. But anything bad either of you want to chime in? I know that you said you didn't really have much, but
I'll agree with you on those episodes and everything. Those ones definitely kind of took me out of it a little bit, especially with Bill Burr. I'm a fan of his, so it's like it was kind of hard to take him seriously as that hardcore badass bounty hunter. And like we were talking earlier, it's like get kind of where they were going for. You know, you're not every bounty hunter is, you know, going to be your straightforward, you know, sharp as a razor and everything. Some are, you know, going to be hammy, kind of throwing out jokes and whatnot. But I didn't really feel like it. They really didn't really fit very well. It wasn't. There was really no point, especially with those episodes. Like they did kind of take away from the feeling of the others. They just kind of threw them in there. Personally,
Carano's introduction obviously made sense in that episode, even if I didn't like it that much, because she played a big part in those last 2 episodes with rejoining.
But the other ones didn't really make. There weren't really a point of them even being there, because they didn't.
Well, some of them are set up for later stuff, like the Bill Burr's one, that all those people can come back in season 2.
So.
Well, no, the place got blown up, remember? Rebel ships came and blew it up at the end, so they
but we didn't see that. They could have
they could have escape pods or whatever.
It's the whole thing. If you don't see them die on screen, they're not really dead.
Well, and just where it's in episode 8 when dude got shot down after he finally got his jetpack, whatever stuff, I was like, they are not killing him. He's too familiar of a face, and I know so many people love the hell out of him from Breaking Bad. I didn't really watch Breaking Bad, so I wasn't just geeking out, you know, the way a lot of people were to see him. But you know, a big amount of speculation is actually who that was at the end of the Tatooine episode. the person who walked up to the Asian woman.
Was that not meant to be Moff Gideon? I thought that was meant to be Moff Gideon.
There's people speculating that it could be all kinds of different other bounty hunters. It could even be Boba Fett since it's Tatooine. I mean,
they grasped onto anything being Boba Fett. Yeah. Anything that wasn't explained. They
bring him back. He's dead.
Well,
who cares?
They still never folded it
in. If they do, do you really want that to be his introduction, or do you want it to be a whole plot point that's woven into the story arc of a whole season? Mm-hmm. Come on.
Well, I mean,
they're not going to just throw in Boba Fett. Yeah. They're going to make it an integral part that's like Boba Fett's like like a boss that he didn't know was behind things and shit like that. I guarantee it. Yeah. Because Boba Fett wasn't even an official Mandalore.
No, he was just like our Mando, where he was a youngling that was taken on from found.
And he didn't have Beskar or anything, or he just had his armor look like it. That's it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But he did have the signet though of the Mandalore. Mm-hmm. But it's like they were saying, it's more of a religion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a race.
This is the way.
Yeah.
Sure.
But my malo was that the episodes were too short.
Same.
I feel like
I'm there with you.
35 minutes at is too short.
They weren't consistent either.
No, they kind of varied a little bit, and I think it deserves 50 minutes to an hour each time. And yeah, it doesn't need to be on the nose the same every single week, but in that area, half hour. I mean, realistically, it's just 4 hour-long episodes of a show. That's not that much, really.
Yeah, and with recaps at the very beginning of the episode and those extended slide paintings at the end, most episodes were really only around 30 minutes total. I mean, there's a few that topped a couple minutes beyond that, but yeah. So length is definitely one of the things that people can gripe about. That's valid, man. Anything else, Robert?
No,
I mean,
not
you
personally.
didn't really have a lot to complain about.
No, not personally. I really enjoyed this show. This was everything I wanted from it, and everything I expected. Personally.
Okay. Well, so the last little bit is Feo, ugly. Just something ugly about the proceedings, whether it was something behind the scenes, whether it was, a beat in the storytelling that you were just like, oof, that's rough, or something of that nature. I think the toxic fandom of Star Wars, it was has been so ugly, and to see people kind of rally behind this, I think has been cool and probably helpful for the property. So that's, it's like kind of a reversion of something that's been very ugly since The Last Jedi about Star Wars and stuff. And so that was at least reassuring to a degree. But, I still saw some criticisms that they're like, this show is far too reliant on nostalgia, and that's an ugly aspect of it, just like Rise of Skywalker was. I mean, the fact that a baby Yoda, that we have to have like a younger, cuter version of a familiar character, and the fact that the Mandalorian is still like an armor and a design that people love so much, the fact that Star Wars is doing something new, but still it's not that new. I read a really interesting article online about this from somebody who was saying, yes, Mandalorian is a lot better in aspects of originality than Rise of Skywalker, but it's still not that original in its utter essence. I don't know, that's definitely nitpicking a little bit in my estimation, but the fact that Disney didn't have like all of the dolls ready to go.
Well, you're stepping on my Feo now.
Sorry. We'll segue then.
My ugly is that I can't buy a Baby Yoda right now like I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it to avoid spoilers because that shit would have leaked ahead of time and it would have lessened the impact. But still, I'm frustrated that I can't have one right now.
And those have argued, they're like, oh, why didn't they have just all the toys and the dolls ready to go? But that's the thing. I mean, it would have kind of spoiled the surprise, and that surprise was really one of the most exciting and amusing aspects of this, I would imagine. Anything ugly as far as the storytelling, and ugly doesn't necessarily mean bad. Ugly could mean you're just like, holy crap, I can't believe they did that, or something of that nature. When the troopers were punching little Baby Yoda, I was like, that's ugly, that's mean as hell.
Oh, it was super mean, but it's like, you knew exactly what was going to happen, alright? What happens when you punch a cute little baby? You get what you deserve.
You know who those guys were, right?
It was
Jason Sudeikis and Adam Pally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who the Pally guy is, but obviously Jason.
Adam Pally was in. He's been in the Mindy Project, is where I know him from.
I would probably recognize him if I saw him.
Yeah, he's a younger guy, but he's really, really funny. And I as soon as I was listening, I was like, I recognize Jason
the voices.
Sudeikis right away, but I
Yeah,
recognized
same.
Adam Pally pretty quickly too when he got off of his speeder and walked towards him, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." But what was nice about that was seeing. I loved seeing how stormtroopers interact like regular soldiers.
It was
and
nice
stuff.
and refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not so robotic and everything.
Right.
It felt very Taika Waititi to me, in all
Yeah.
honesty.
And then
Just
when they're
like
trying to shoot the thing,
Yeah.
and they keep missing.
Oh yeah.
And he's like
God, you
shaking
guys
his
suck.
blaster.
that was priceless. That was very, very funny. But you know, at the end of the previous episode where This Is the Way guy got taken down, that definitely
Quill.
that made me sad.
Oh my god, the ending of that episode, how are you gonna end it like that? It was not cool. And then I had to wait an entire week for the new one.
And then you think about it, it's those two clowns that took Quill out of the world.
but you can't shoot a can that's sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
They might have just run his ass over with their speeder.
Yeah, probably.
No one
yeah.
says how good their accuracy
Well, they were
is
shooting
with
with
the
the
speeder.
gun from the speeder, not with the
That's
pistol.
true, yeah.
So,
You know, the last thing I guess I can think about Ugly Wise, because it was a debate amongst people. Do you think it was better that they did it episodic as opposed to
Yes.
bingeably? Because of the fact that,
Yes.
you know, 3 shows that have done this whole episodic thing, most notably this year. Well, actually, maybe it's only 2, but Watchmen and Mandalorian are 2 specific ones that, you know, it gave you a week of discussion, speculation, you know, whether it's on social
the way
media
TV used to be.
or talking around the, you know, water cooler at the office or whatever
Game
the
of
hell it
Thrones
is.
was the only thing, and that because that was weekly. You know, people talk about shows that are weekly like this. It keeps like Sabrina and things that drop on Netflix. They're only talked about for 2-3 weeks max. But this was talked about for 8 solid weeks, and it will be talked about for a couple of weeks after that too, because everyone's catching up and binging and stuff like that. Like that's the smarter way to go. Like as much as it's a bummer for us like those of us that need to immediately know what's happening next, I gotta admit, I had gotten to a point where I was just watching so much stuff on my phone, and like I just didn't even care anymore. I didn't even make time for actual TV. I made time when every new episode of Mandalorian dropped. I put the phone down. I didn't play video games while I watched. I put it on the TV and I sat down on the couch and I just sat back and watched it like a movie, like I used to do. And I enjoyed it that much more for it. And it's like it made me like long for the days when I was like, all that matters is what's on the screen right now. And
It built the anticipation, man. It really did. Yeah.
And I wanted to know every week. You know, the very, you know, Friday, as soon as I was available, I was watching that.
same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I did see some people bitching about, why couldn't I have had it all at once, so on and so forth. It's like, well, if you want it all at once, you wait 8 weeks, and then you sign up for your free trial, and you binge it, and then you cancel, and you're done, and whatever. And that's sort of maybe there is an ugliness to the instant gratification culture and the fact that, you know, we've been spoiled to a degree, and I feel like, you know, stuff doesn't get to gestate properly in that regard. And maybe we don't analyze it as well either, because when you watch everything all at once as opposed to theorizing and discussing over the course of another 7 days, I mean, I feel like you wrap your head around something a little bit more so. Maybe, I don't know, just a thought though. So any final little bits to throw out, gents?
I'm excited.
Everyone's good. Yeah, I'm stoked for that second season, man. I can't wait
I'm
to
glad
see
he
where
got
it all goes.
his jump pack.
Yes, that was pretty fun.
Oh, it was cool. It's like basically after each mission, he'd level up like in the video games.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, cool, you got this. Here's your new perk."
Yeah.
It was cool.
Because his armor got destroyed in that second episode, and then he had to go upgrade it and stuff. And I just loved everything with learning more about the Mandalorian culture and just, I mean, every aspect of it. And also his backstory with him during the Clone Wars and his hatred for droids because of how they killed his family. And
those very familiar droids from the early movies.
Yep.
Yeah, so there was just it's a very nuanced and layered show that I watched each episode at least a couple times each week, just because there were little Easter eggs and little additional bits that I maybe missed. And in the binge culture, when you probably would have just watched all of those in order and just been done with it and maybe watched them all again, the fact that I would rewatch episodes over the course of a week just to try to get a little bit more out of them and pick them apart a little bit more, I think that this was the way to go. So I guess I'll leave it at that, everybody. And I extend a grande gracias to Robert, first time on my channel here, and Cecil. So happy to have you on for some Star Wars coverage this past couple weeks, man. And definitely more to come in 2020. So I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, just like you're seeing it below. Is there any social media or something you would like to refer people to for yourself, sir?
Not
Anything
really.
of importance? There you go.
No, not at the moment. Sorry.
Maintains his anonymousness. But we're here filming at the Horror Show Studios because of the much bigger project that is taking up most of our filming time today, and Cecil is going to tell you a little bit about it.
It's the Horror Show channel, 1 episode every single day. Yeah, check it out.
There you go. YouTube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's what we've been at for a number of years at this particular point. So, I've been Fuego. These guys, and of course, all of y'all have been awesome. And until the real of Ka, comes around once more, hasta luego, Cinemigos, constant readers and viewers alike. But I'm hopeful that we get to share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later. Peace.
We have spoken.
This is the way.